time, more than 70 world leaders made a commitment to build a better, safer world for children by the year 2000. Now in its 1991 State of the World's Children report, UNICEF looks at how to do just that. And we are delighted to have with us this morning actress Audrey Hepburn, UNICEF's Goodwill Ambassador, who has visited so many of the world's children and who can tell us how the promises of the summit can really become a reality at this point. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Joan.
What are they saying? What are they saying in this report today?
Well, the report, as you know, is in fact just that. It's a report on what has been achieved in the last year and what the needs still are. There's good news and there's bad news.
Okay.
The bad news is that 14 million children are still dying every year, although we have helped save millions. But it's still 14 million because the poverty has increased, their debt has increased, and so forth. The good thing is that this year has brought us the Convention on the Rights of the Child and the declaration of the Summit for the World's Children, which means that we're not on our own any longer. We are now backed up at the highest level by governments. And I know there are many skeptics who say, yes, but, you know, it's just a declaration and a piece of paper. But it's a piece of paper that will become a standard for all governments, for all countries, below which, you know, they will be ashamed to fall.
Below which we should never, ever fall.
Never fall, because children must have priority.
Well, it's interesting you say a standard, something that will become a standard, because this really does call for more than aid. It calls for kind of a new way of thinking about children.
Yes, a moral standard. And also, it's the greatest investment for the future in every way.
When you sat down, I said, have you been doing any traveling? And you said, yes, and it's all for UNICEF, Vietnam, and all over the world. But I know you went to Vietnam. What's happening with the children there?
That's just it. I think they're forgotten. It's a country which tragically has been associated with war so long, and I don't think enough people stop to think that it's a beautiful country full of children. The country is suffering but such hardship, which, you know, it's due to many reasons. 40 years of war, they're isolated from the world, they're cut off. There's no economy to speak of, for whatever reasons there are. The result is always that the children are the ones who are undernourished, and many areas of the country, especially in the north and in the mountains, in the rural, distant areas which are very hard to reach, people are really suffering enormous hardship.
You don't just lend your name to a piece of paper. I know you travel to all these places, these hard-to-reach places. After seeing them and after seeing now here a year later what's going on, are you optimistic that these countries are able to work within this new system, this new framework which has been drafted?
Of course, yes. I am very optimistic, first of all, because I see the marvelous things that are being done with the support of UNICEF by all the fabulous agencies in the field. But I'm optimistic, Joan, too, because don't forget, there was, I mean, some 20 years ago, I think people thought we were rather flaky when we talked about acid rain and the planet and the destruction of our world. Now, politicians, governments are desperately having summits of their own to save the planet. And there will come the day, very soon, when it'll be the same for children. People will look back and say, how is it possible that we allowed these mass deaths of children? 40,000 a day. Just as once upon a time the world accepted slavery. There will be a day when this will no longer exist, and we have now reached the point where that possibility has really opened up, because we're not just individuals trying to save a child here and there. Each government is going to be held responsible, and I don't care how many people say, but they just came to New York for publicity to sign a declaration because it looks good. That's fine with me too, because they're going to have to look awfully good when they come back in 2 years' time and report on the achievements in their country. And then they'll really look good when they say the immunization has been completed, there's less malnutrition, there are less child deaths, and so forth.
Well, that time will only come with the hard work of people like you.
Well, I just do a very small job, but I can tell you that there are hundreds of thousands of people in the field who are there all year round and for years who dedicate their lives to justice, to educating children and educating mothers. Because after survival, I think the one single most important thing is that there's been such discrimination in all those countries to girl children and women. And they finally are the key to the care of their children. They have to learn still about family planning, about nourishing their children and so forth.
You have to keep the optimism and the hope, right? Not as well as the hard work, I know. We're going to take a break for a moment. We're going to come back and we will hear about another of Audrey Hepburn's passions when Good Morning America continues.
Before they could walk.
Hepburn, Goodwill Ambassador to UNICEF. But another passion she has is gardening. I remember when we were with you last in Holland, we were in those beautiful gardens at the palace, which I think your uncle restored, right?
That's right. He's an architect and a restorer of old monuments, and he had restored the palace and the garden. And the garden has become the most perfect example of 17th century gardens in Europe.
It's really quite incredible.
It puts back exactly with 5 million plants, which they used then and so forth.
But you've been walking through a few other gardens, I know. You're doing a program where you're going to be in all the most beautiful gardens in the world?
Yes, I tell you, that was such a treat. It's a show called The Gardens of the World.
On PBS?
And it's on PBS, and it's starting on the 7th of March. And I must say it was such a treat.
Where are we looking at right now? This garden here, it's just gorgeous.
That, I believe, is the Gambaraya in Italy. Just from a quick glimpse, I'm not quite sure.
But you have gardens of your own now. Have you always been one to go out and get in there?
Yes, but I'm not at all a gardening expert, but I'm terribly good at weeding and clipping and...
You have a green thumb, though. You can keep them alive? The plants alive? That's more than most of us can do,
all my fingers are green and muddy and...
Everyone else wanted me to ask you, because, I mean, you have such a reputation for being so beautiful and such a beautiful shape. They said,
Joan,
I just have to know, they said, does she work out every day and diet, or does it just come naturally?
No, I have no idea. I suppose it's, I mean, I've been blessed with awfully good luck and a little help from pots and tubes and
moisturizers and things like that, but
yes.
You don't like.
I won't mention the name.
You don't have to work out like a maniac every day to do this.
No, I'm no good at that at all. I did so much of it in my youth because I was a ballet dancer for many years. But I am, you know, fidgety. I'm always on my feet and run around, and I walk my dogs.
What kind of dogs?
4 Jack Russells.
Oh, do they walk you or do you walk them?
No, they walk me. And they're full of energy and joy and affection, and I'm crazy about it.
Will we see you back in the movie? Got any plans to do another movie?
Well, I mean, who knows? You know, I never say no.
Came along?
If it's just short enough and I can wedge it in between all these UNICEF activities, then I'd love to do another one, yes.
Well, you'll come back to us when your PBS special goes on, right?
May I?
Terrific.
You don't think your audiences will get awfully fed up? This is like the 5th time, Joan.
With you, Miss Hepburn, never.
Thank you, Joan. I love coming back.
It's great to see you. And Joel Siegel is going to be along in a moment. He'll take the temperature of Bonfire of the Vanities when Good Morning America continues.
I want to see that.
We move on down the list and we're out of here.
So you want to look at the car, then?
Yeah.
Ah, I see. I see.
Well, we don't have a description.
When the person who doctors the family gets a cough and cold, everyone suffers.
Mom, someone took my cream.
I ironed it myself.
Time to doctor that cough with Robitussin, because more doctors and pharmacists recommend Robitussin than any other cough medicine.
Look, Mom's feeling better.
Robitussin, recommended by Dr. Mom. Which Robitussin is right for you? Ask your doctor or pharmacist. And for nighttime relief of colds with coughs, use Robitussin Night Relief.
This handbag is one of the most powerful ones Black & Decker makes. I'm going to get it for my father. For the TV room.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, when all those bowl games are on. You know, the pretzel bowl, the cheese puff bowl, the corn chip bowl, the dip bowl.
Just as air turns an apple brown, it will turn coffee bitter. That's why Braun's new Flavor Seal system
Is UNICEF Goodwill?